What changes when you choose a career with real-world exposure and honest insight before you invest years of your life into a guess? Career readiness is broken in a way that leaves smart, capable people drifting. People graduate, start jobs, and realize they never had a clear picture of what the work actually feels like day to day. Keep listening, and you'll hear why exposure creates clarity faster, how conversations and shadowing reduce expensive trial and error, and how networking becomes simple when you understand what it truly is. This is the Your Next Success podcast, and I'm your host, Dr. Carolyn Sagal. I am a life-first career coach and strategist on a mission to normalize questioning your career, because I believe each of us is made on purpose for a purpose only we can fulfill. The longer we live out of alignment with who we are, what we do best, and why we are here, the more we miss out, and the more the world misses out on what only we can give. The Your Next Success podcast is where we explore how to build a career that truly fuels your life. We talk about self-discovery, smart job search strategies, professional growth, and you will hear stories from people who have navigated big career transitions themselves, so you can create a life-first career and become your own version of authentic success. Today's guest is Mike Wysocki, author of the award-winning and Amazon best-selling book, Careers by the People, built from candid insight from 101 experienced professionals. After more than 30 years in tech sales, Mike turned his expertise into a career readiness mission. He has spoken to thousands of high school and college students from Massachusetts to Maui and has created more than 120 career readiness videos on YouTube. His second book is expected in 2026. His work helps people choose with clarity and move forward with confidence. Career decisions shape more than a paycheck. They shape your energy, your health, your relationships, and your sense of purpose. Mike's story is honest and practical. He built stability. He also discovered that meaning requires a different approach, so he built a solution. He gathered real input from real professionals, turned it into a resource students can use, and stepped into schools to give people a clearer starting point. In this conversation, you'll hear how environment influences what you believe is possible, why exposure through shadowing and conversations accelerates clarity, why networking becomes easier when you see it as real relationship building with purpose, how to choose a direction without forcing lifelong decisions too early. Let's get into it. Welcome, Mike, to Your Next Success. I'm so excited to be talking to you today. We talked a few weeks ago. We hit it off, and I just really loved your energy, the awesomeness that you do. I love your authenticity and just how you are just an amazing person doing great work for the world. We're going to get into all of those amazing things of how you help young people try to figure out not just a job that they could do, but something that they're actually passionate about. We'll get to those things. But I'd love to dial it back to the beginnings of your story. So,
sure, Carly, go crazy. Ask any question you have. Yeah.
Let's do it. Okay. Where were you born? Where did you grow up? What was life like for the really young?
Oh, okay. I was born in the city of Presidents, Quincy, Massachusetts. Okay, so you got John Quincy Adams, and me. So Quincy is a little south of Boston, and that's where I was born. But that's where I was born. So I ended up growing up in the next town down, which is called Weymouth, and it was a section of Weymouth called North Weymouth, Massachusetts. And what Weymouth is famous for is, again, John Adams' wife, Abigail Adams, and Abigail's from Weymouth, and as well as the movie Blow. George Young is from Weymouth too, and he was the biggest cocaine dealer in America. So those are the two most famous people from where I grew up, on both sections of the spectrum. So you got super, helpful to society and American history, and another guy who probably destroyed a lot of history. So that's good.
And so when you were really little, what did you enjoy doing? Did you have any brothers and sisters?
Yeah. But I mean, my siblings were nice and all like that, but I was more or less hanging around with the local neighborhood kids. We were playing a lot of sports, acting like idiots, just, having fun because, and it's funny, my third book's going to be about one of the summers. But the fact is, it was just like the area I grew up with blue collar, low income area and all like that. And so all the parents came from, the great generation or whatever, World War II, Korea War. So a lot of our parents were involved in those wars. So in my thought process was that they're like, you know what, let the kids run amok. Who cares? Because there's no, at the time, I mean, Vietnam was ending and all like that. And so that was still, I mean, everybody was just so, you know what, we're done with the war stuff. Let's just let the kids do whatever they want. And so yeah, so it was just basically playing sports, goofing around, causing trouble, being a jackass, and that's what my childhood was. And it was, we got in a lot of trouble, but we got out of a lot of trouble too. So, but I mean, it's pretty harmless. Nothing really super bad and nothing really super good. So yeah, that's all good, fun stuff.
Any particular sports that you liked more than
Well, we
others?
played them all. But I liked baseball probably the most. But it was interesting. The whole sports thing was interesting because we'd play the sports, but yet we'd constantly have conflicts with the coaches. They were like authorities, management figures. So it's like we're playing the sports, and then they try to help you out. And you're like, yeah, don't worry about it. I already know everything. I'm 12 years old. You know what I mean? So yeah, so it was more or less like organized sports wasn't as fun as unorganized. So unorganized was more fun because we could make up the rules, change the rules, and debate the whole time about that. So baseball, wiffle ball, and then some hockey's big over there. So a lot of hockey playing on the ponds and the ice and stuff like that. So that's what the world was. Uh, yeah, so that's pretty simple America, really.
And then, so blue collar area, you guys are out having the time of your life, enjoying with kids, maybe, yeah, getting in trouble, doing sports. What about school time? Was there anything that interested you during school time, or was it just a necessary
Check
thing you
box.
had to
It
do?
just a necessary thing you had to do. It was just social time basically. You go to school, you talk to the kids you go to school with. You talk about what's happening. And my joke about the high school was by the time I get there was just like you get there on Monday and Tuesday, you talk about what you did in the weekend. Wednesday, you watch the clock. Thursday and Friday, you talk about what you're going to do in the weekend and repeat because nobody there was no care. And the thing was, it's just like I mean, there was students over there that were doing well, and then there's the dopes. I mean, no matter how bad you were as a student, there's always somebody dumber than you in class, so they're going to fail. And so you just sit there and skate by. It's just like you just don't care. It's just it's like yeah, it's just a part of life you got to deal with, and you're like, okay, I'm here. What's recess? Let's go play kickball, and that was it. Seriously, I mean, there was no pressure. I bring my report card on my practice and say, "Oh, you're only going to do is wreck your own future." And so I'm like, "Oh, whatever. Who cares? I don't care." Yeah, my siblings were trying. My older sibling and my younger sibling, they actually did well at school, did all that focus. I was just like, the student my parents expected to go nowhere, so there was no pressure on me because they already expected failure. So it was only one way up.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay. And so then as you kind of got through high school, then how did you decide what you wanted to do after
Yeah,
high
high school is
school?
so easy. Social promotions. And so again, go back to that is because I remember it's just like again, you get a C or a D and you pass and they let you go. And I mean, I remember when my one of my favorite teachers, Mr. Arvinson, in math calculus class or algebra, I don't know what it was, but it was coming to the final exam. And on Fridays, we'd take the day off and just skip school and go golfing, right? And so he'd always ask about golf on Monday. How'd you do? How'd you score? And then it came to the final day. Hey, Mr. Arvidsson, what's the deal? Do I have to study for this? He goes, yeah, you should. And I go, okay. So I took the test, didn't study, obviously. And I go, Mr. Arvidsson, look at me. I got a D. I didn't study. See? He's like, but anyway, so yeah, so I get out of high school. And during that time, it's like, what do you do at the end of school? And I'm like, okay, like, you can go in the military, go to work. I don't want to do the work. The military sounded interesting. So I took some tests for that, did okay, and they kept on trying to recruit me. But my mother's like, no, no, no. She goes, I'm sick of sending, so many young people that she knew died in Vietnam and people that went to Korea. So the military thing was just like, I got to do something good for my mother. I can't keep being a jackass. And so I'm like, okay, let's go to college. So I talked to the career counselor, and the career counselor recommends me to go to a college that doesn't even exist. How many people in Boston State? It was a school that was like got bought up years ago by UMass. But so I ended up starting at UMass Boston, and I started there going to college, and seeing the world from high school to college. That transition was really interesting. So I started up UMass Boston and just, see what would happen there. And, I'm like, what do I do? Everybody's like, oh, engineering pays the bills. And I'm like, I'll go to engineering. So I take all these math classes, I flunk them all. And so I'm like, damn, what's going to happen now? Um,
Yeah, and then how did you decide? So it's like so you're I guess on one hand you're trying to listen to and get out of that blue
yeah,
collar area or get money or like that becomes the target is that the so it's like on one hand you're trying to do something that your mom would appreciate and secondly get some money to maybe get the hell out or at least have a better life than
yeah,
where you had
yeah.
been.
But still
Is that
hanging
fair?
around with my buddies and just drinking beer was sounding fun too. So it's just like, I kind of wanted to get a good gig, but also I didn't know really where I was. But here's what happened though, is interesting. But money, I mean, I worked part time in the school was paid for because my parents had no money. So the fact that you file, my father was good at paperwork, and so he did the applications for financial aid. So so that wasn't a problem. Then I bumped into right after high school was my buddy Dino, and Dino came from another section of Weymouth, which was extremely poor. I mean, Dino grew up in serious poverty. And I go, hey, Dino, I go, what are you doing after high school? He goes, I'm going to UMass Amherst. I go, Dino, I go, Amherst. I go, you get a paper, room and board and all that stuff. I go, where'd you get the money? You're poorer than I am. He goes, financial aid. He goes, we're poor. The state, the taxpayers pay for us to do whatever we want. And I'm like, I can transfer the job. So when I'm at UMass Boston, I'm like, okay, first year I do terrible in math. And I'm like, okay, then I'll take some other simpler classes. And so I can do good enough to transfer to UMass Amherst. And that was the game changing part of my life because I went from a commuter college where you're dealing with not people just out of high school, people that are working, people that are like older. And I can't relate to them because of like this, they tell you stuff and talk to you. And it's more like they're real grown ups. And I'm like, I'm still really mentally still a young person. I was still a teenager in my head, which I was. And then I'm like, you know what? Go to UMass Amherst, drink beers, have fun, act like a jackass, and get a college degree. Good goal, right? So that's what I did. I transferred out there, and the people that I met, my God, they were like, "Oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to graduate school. I'm going to start a business, do all these different things, go into sales." And I'm like, "Whoa!" They were actually the young people were really with thoughts after tomorrow. And I'm like, I've never met
Yeah.
anybody like this. So that was pivotal in changing me from just figuring out how to get a job from a college degree to actually thinking about where I should be and what I should do. So that's why I think it's always imperative to want to get out of your environment too and meet other people and networking and start expanding your horizons versus the handful of dopes you hang around with that you drink beer and talk about sports with, so yeah.
Those are good points. And so the first college, were you commuting to that college? And then UMass Amherst, then did you live there, like on campus or near campus? Is that so it was both, I guess, the people who were around you at UMass Amherst, plus the fact that I think you moved there.
Yeah,
I don't
okay.
know how,
You
I
don't
don't
know
know my
geography,
geography
so you're
of
right. The
Massachusetts.
listeners might not about. And that's
Yeah.
the thing about it. People have to explain geography because if you came from Idaho or Kansas, I don't know the difference between St. Louis and Lenexa or something like that, right? So
Right,
if
right,
I lived
right.
south of Boston, so I commuted for my first 2 years of college to UMass Boston because again, there was no focus, no understanding of what I wanted to do. So I took just basically enough courses to consider myself a full-time student. And I also worked part-time just to try to figure out where to do and what to go at. And so I was working at a grocery store part-time and they kept on trying to recruit me to go into management. And it just seemed I mean, unexciting, soulless. So it's like, putting cans on a shelf for the next 30 or 40 years. It's like, no, that was just horrible. And so UMass Amherst is 2 hours away from Boston. So you live there. And I lived on campus the majority of the time that I was at the school for 2.5 years. And that's it. So you're out of your element. Again, fish out of water. You're out of your usual element of where you grew up, everybody what's happening, what's going on, in the depressed mentally area, but there was something missing. It was like it seemed soulless environment. There was no like, how can I get myself going? Whereas one of my friend's older sisters used to tell me, she goes, it's not the town, it's who you socialize with. And she goes, that's the issue, because she's very successful, did well, and she only grew up a mile away from me. But the fact about it is, it's who you socialize and who you deal with. So if you deal with a lot of negativity and you're hanging out with people that are not being helpful to your future, and you're talking to elders who haven't been successful, then they're going to give you a lot of bad advice. So I was just listening to a lot of bad advice, and negativity really, I mean, it really screwed me up. And because I was always like the victim mentality, blah, 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 blaming the world. We're stuck in this situation. Who cares? I'll pump gas up the street, drink beers, whatever. I don't care. And it just, that attitude isn't good for anybody. And so I had to get out of that attitude. And that's when I learned that there is hope. I mean, you can go out there and do things. And that's what happened when I went to UMass. I started meeting students and what their thoughts and their angles and ideas were pretty intense. And it was great. And so I'm like, wow, this is amazing.
So getting out of your original environment into a brand new place with new groups of friends, people seem like they had ideas and things of what they wanted to do, and that starts catching on. But then how did you pick what you were going to study for the remainder of your time in college? How did you choose, like, I guess I'll get this major?
So ironic. I changed over to sociology when I was at UMass Boston because, again, my friend's sister, and because she went to the same school, and she was talking, she goes, well, if you're not doing well in the sciences, what do you know about sociology? I go, nothing. I go, the next question, of course, is it difficult? She goes, no, not really. And I go, okay, that's my major. So I started in sociology. And then when I went transfer out to UMass Amherst, I'm like, so I want to be a sociology major. But the irony is, it did actually interest me. And, all the different angles and thoughts about it and what they talk about in different subjects. Some of the class, some of the classes were horrible. I remember taking one class that one of the teachers, I still, to this day, I probably couldn't figure out what the hell he was talking about. But other ones were really clear and concise and helped out, as well as it helps improving your writing, and you can learn a great deal. At UMass Boston, though, this is another changing point that I forgot to add was when I took the test just to go into what English class or what math class you're supposed to start off in college. Math, I started off with all the other students, whatever we call it, Algebra 101, whatever the math is you start off with. In English, I started off in English 010, which is below English 101. So this is where the students that barely get into school and can't write or can't speak and have major issues go. And so when I went to that class, the teacher said, okay, write a paper about anything you want. And I did it. And then when the teacher passed it out, she goes, can we talk to the class? She goes, I got an idea for you that I think will help. And I go, sure. She goes, are you okay with getting a tutor? And I'm like, tutor? I go, am I that bad? She goes, no. She goes, you're fine. But she goes, we just need to give you some basics so you have understanding about writing. And I'm like, okay. So I met with a tutor, myself and this other student from South Boston. And the tutor's like, okay, which amazing high schools did you guys go to? And we told him. And he's like, whoa. And I go, what's up? He goes, do you want to learn how to write? And I go, of course. Yeah, sure. He goes, both of us, myself and the student Joe, he agreed. And so he taught us the basics. He goes, okay, throw everything out. I'll teach you how to write a sentence, a paragraph, to form an argument, debate, and all of that. And from there, I learned how to write. And that was another changing point too. Because if I didn't take the class from Eleanor Walks, the professor, and she didn't pair me with that tutor, I mean, I can guarantee right now, I wouldn't be talking to you. I mean, doing something.
And now you come to write, like you're writing your third book, right? And so like, this is amazing. Yeah. Okay. So this tutor, so that class, even though it's like, are you kidding me? Like, you're putting me below this, but they met you where you were. That tutor saw who you were and helped you, took a personal interest in your development, and you were all ready and willing to learn when there was somebody who cared about the subject and who showed a bit of interest in you. You met them where they were and then rose.
Yeah. And it was a pivotal point in life. The other thing too is you have to understand is I'm in a class with students that they're all from the Boston area, of course, because they have to go commute to the school. But some of them, I mean, this is like the second and third language. They're from foreign countries, some of the guys, people in the class. And so a lot of us were from the low income areas and struggling. But I'm thinking to myself, it's like, not only was I struggling, it's like I grew up right in the area and I still had to get a tutor when some of the other students, could have grew up in Zimbabwe. And it's like they're passing the class. It's like, really? Because again, do I blame the system? No, because I skated through school. They're like, I mean, it was easy where I went to high school was just like, if you study, you get the A. If you act like a jackass, you get the F and you fail. And if you sit there and shut up, we'll give you the D and you can float by. And I'm like, that's a deal. I'll take the D. And, he just have to show up and do okay in school and he can float by. And then UMass Boston at that time was a newer school. So their like acceptance rates like 99%. And so then after that, it just, it's one of my friends always says, it's a little wins in life that build up. Everybody wants to, buy their first house in Beverly Hills or the Upper East Side of Manhattan. But it doesn't work that way. You got to start off smaller, and people don't get that.
And that persistence of keep trying, get up, keep going, try it again. And I think also your curiosity. You see, you had this ability to like ask some questions from people that you respected. You heard a lot of advice from people that just gave it to you anyway. You asked some questions about people you respected, and you kind of followed that and went and tried it out. You're like, what do I got to lose?
Yeah, that's a good thing about where I grew up is the resiliency factor. And street smarts is probably some people would call it. But the fact is that you can take a beating and keep moving on. And, you don't sit there and cry in the corner as they did in what's that movie? Don't put baby in the corner, Dirty Dancing or whatever. But the fact is, which is always a funny quote, but you cry with spilt milk, whatever the terminology you prefer the best. But the fact is, if you're resilient and you can deal with failure, and that's one thing about it is I can deal with failure way more than most people, which is great. And because that's helpful in a sales career, but it's helpful in life as well, because you're going to fail, and how you deal with it and how you react to it is an imperative part of your life. And if you show some resiliency and you just don't give up and keep fighting no matter what people say or do. And as I read about it in my next book, I mean, the book 2, actually, by the way, is with the editor. I'm like, you know what? I can take a verbal abuse any day of the week. It's better than an ass beating. You know what I mean? So I'd rather have somebody call me something to say I'm a failure or a loser than punch me in the face or hit me with a hammer, right? So you got to be able to deal with things. And so many people are soft or they're not strong. And if they could learn to deal with that, I mean, you don't have to be the smartest person in the room. I've seen so much failure from people that are so intelligent. It's the person that can handle it. And it's funny, the person that talks about resilience in my next book is one of the guys I grew up with. He's very successful in business. And he was reading the book, being one of the editors. He's like, you miss resiliency. And I go, what do you think? And he gave me an awesome quote. I go, I'm going to use it and use your name too. And he's like, approved it, of course. So, but yeah, there's a lot of interesting things. That's why it's like, why I'm glad that you speak to people out there in, careers and occupations, because they give you their side suggestions versus the stereotypical CEOs like, oh yeah, I got an MBA from Wharton. I worked in Wall Street and I kicked some keister and I retired at 32. And now I, Lear jet over to Maui on the weekends. Like cocktails.
Yeah, and the rest of us are like that. That's not been our experience. Okay, so you are at UMass Amherst. You now know how to write because you had done that at UMass Boston. You're doing sociology. You graduate, and then what?
Okay, so when I'm in college, I'm like, the whole goal is just get the degree and get out. Because by now I'm getting tired of college. I'm like, okay, at the end. And this was a writing class. So you remind me, I did write up for one of my film courses. I wrote Nosferatu, and that was one of my best papers ever written. The teacher's like, he goes, you know what? I'm just going to give you the A- because I laughed the whole time. He goes, this is perfect. No, but he goes, it's funny as hell. So all I want to do is get the BA, get out of college and go get a job in business job. What do you do? I'm going to go into business, which is vague, which means nothing to anybody. Anybody in the workforce is like, what the hell is this business? So in my head, business, yeah, exactly.
None of your business.
Yeah, exactly. In my head, it's like, you got to get a job at one of these, Boston companies, and you go work and you do something and you make money and, blah, 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 blah. Life's great. So, boom, I get the degree. Okay. And I did meet with a career counselor or whatever when I was in school. And, I don't even recall what happened. I remember I had to walk. It was a cold day. I saw a book And the book was like, what is a demographer? Like a magazine. I'm like, I always, it just drives me crazy. I should have either read the article or ripped off the magazine, because the fact is that is an interesting type of career. So what do? I get out of college, I go back to Boston area, 2 hours away. I live with my parents until I get myself going. I work part-time at the liquor store so I can actually interview. Like I work there Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, so I can interviews on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And so this is how I prepared what I was going to do myself. I asked my sister, I go, hey, she's a couple of years old in the business world. I go, what's a good company to work for in Boston? Fidelity. My whole goal, my whole focus, get a job at Fidelity, because if Fidelity is good, I can figure it out from there. So I did. I busted tail, got all these interviews, different ways, and I ended up in Fidelity because the hiring manager went to UMass. He's 2 years older than me, nice guy. And he was like, Western Massachusetts, like they call soda tonic, like that. So that's what we talked about, was the difference between Eastern Massachusetts and Western Massachusetts. And that's the interview. And he goes, yeah, okay, you're hired, yeah. Because I'm hired at the lowest level, entry-level gig. So I'm there and I'm sitting down. I get to meet all my cohorts I'm working with, all very nice people, all throughout the United States. It was kind of, I'm like to myself going, wow, I thought Fidelity would hire like, a little bit higher echelon types. But I'm like, this guy didn't even, finish college. I can't believe that, So a lot of things that was kind of interesting. And then I do that first job. And then the job is really, it's called quality control analyst, which I just analyze, which is without question, AI would take a job like that away in 7 seconds. But the point is, it's an entry-level job, and it was really monotonous. I did the same thing consistently. I was making extremely low money, but I had to gain experience. And from there, you start meeting and talking to people. And I started talking to people inside of Fidelity, HR, whatever I could, to figure out ways to kind of grow in the company. And I kept on hitting walls. And then I foolishly listened to this young gal I worked with. And she goes, my friend's killing it. He sells life insurance. And I'm like, what do you mean killing it? She goes, he makes a lot of money. And I go, that's all I need to hear. So I go, can you introduce me to this guy? She goes, yeah, sure. So she introduced me to this guy. And he was really a cool guy. And he's like, yeah, I can get you. He goes, this is the question to ask the vice president of sales. He'll talk, he'll like you, and then you're hired. That's how it works. And I'm like, okay. So I do that, and I get into that industry, and I lasted maybe 6 months. It was a hell. I mean, everybody was nice. Everybody tried to help me. But when you're 22 years old talking about life insurance to like 70-year-olds, it's an awful. I wanted energetic. And my manager was such a good guy, though. At the end, he's like, you know what? He's like, I got some good clients. He goes, I'll call them up, see if I can get you gigs. But they're all I lived in the south of Boston. They're all in the north of Boston. So the commute would be impossible. And from there, though, I ended up in, the next thing was tech sales. And I can tell you a little bit more about that, how that occurred too, if you want to hear about that.
Imagine what your life would be like if your career aligned with who you are, what you do best, and actually fueled the life you want. At Next Success, we support all ages and stages through career transitions, from students exploring majors or careers to job seekers actively searching or reimagining their next move to professionals committed to self-awareness and leadership growth. Stay connected and explore what's possible at nextsuccesscareers.com and follow Next Success Method on LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Yes, I'd love to hear. I'm absolutely fascinated by each twist and turn.
So I started my technology career because during the time I worked at Fidelity, I was trying to just get an apartment, with a friend or something like that to split, but couldn't find any places or whatever. And then everybody's buying real estate back then. So one of the guys I grew up with lived up the street from me. I mean, I knew him from like sports or whatever, but it wasn't like, we were like really close. And I go, hey, if you're interested, why don't you go buy a condo? We'll split it and, make a couple bucks and see how it goes from there. He's like, I'm down. And so because we had no money, I had to buy a condo in a, dumpy area and did that. And the person, the biggest connection was the real estate sales guy. Again, another slick sales guy, but he meant well. And he was like, hey, man, if you ever want to talk about, where you want to be or something like that, he goes, I got some good connections. So I'm like, okay. So when I left the life insurance company. And if I quit or they fired me, I can't recall, but it doesn't really matter. I called him up. I go, hey, man, I'm into a bind. And he goes, just come to my office and we'll talk. And his angle was to try to get me into his firm. But he goes, they're going to ask you if you have 3 months saved. And I didn't. And then when he gives the interview, he goes, I told you to say this. And I go, but I really don't have the cash. He goes, okay, let's pivot. What is your interest in computers? And it was little to none. And I go, I don't know. It's like, oh, it sounds like the future or something like that. He goes, okay, my buddy is a sales manager at a computer company, a retail store, and you can start and learn how to sell that. I'm like, okay. And so I met him for lunch, and this guy was like eating and boozing the whole time. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. And that was it. He goes, yeah. He goes, Chip recommended you, so yeah, I'll hire you. I'm like, okay, right. Start. He goes, how's this as a payment? I'm like, yeah, sure. Whatever he said, I was like, yeah, I got to make money, so I'll take it. And then I started, and I'm working retail in Boston. And I just sit down, they go, here's your desk. And I'm like, okay. And the phone rang, and I go, great. And he goes, yeah, pick it up and see what they want. And I go, what? In life insurance sales, the phone never rings. It's cold call, cold call, cold call. And the phone rang, and I picked it up going, Mike Wysocki Computer Factory. How can I help? I was amazed. And then the guy who handled the general manager of that store goes to me and goes, no, the general manager of the territory was in at the same time. He goes, wow. He goes, you're so excited about that. I go, Jeff, I got out of insurance sales. I go, nobody calls you. I go, these people want to buy stuff. Whatever I can do. Yeah. And so from there, then we went out to a territory meeting in a little west of Boston called Metro West. And I met these sales dudes, like ex-football player guys, and they're like, okay, this is how you make the big bucks, blah, blah, blah. And they're talking money that I'm like, incomprehensible. And I'm like, wow. And then their team's ready to expand. And for some reason, when I met them, they liked me. Or they went to Jeff and they go, hey, Jeff, we're looking to expand. You get young guns over there you think you can hire. And he goes, yeah, I got this one guy who's ecstatic. You go get him over here. And I'm like, okay. So I met and talked to them. And they're like, yeah, sure. All you got to do, they go, we got this huge contract. I'm like, what does that mean? They go, well, you're going to be selling to Western Unions. I go, how's the process work? He goes, it doesn't work. He goes, it's not difficult. Western Union's covering the cost. There's no cost to them. And I'm like, wait a second, they can buy without money? Yep. I go, I'm in. And so we just constantly calling Western Unions up, explaining the pitch. And I mean, these guys were nickel and diming and saying, but I can get, DOS from my friend. And they called it DOS. They didn't know how to say it back then. And I'm like, it's included in the package. And so from there, I started selling more computer stuff. The money started growing, and it was really cool. But again, then I'm like, okay, how can I expand from here? And then I ended up going into software sales because everybody's like, the future's not hardware, it's software. And I'm like, okay. So I went to a software company close to my house. So my commute wasn't 45 minutes, it was 5. And that was a disaster. The sales manager was awful. And there was no progression. So then after that, it just went south. I mean, I just started taking these gigs just to make a couple bucks here and there. And then it was 25, 26 is when the brain matures. And then from there, I'm like, what the hell am I doing? I'm a disaster, surviving, paying the bills, living this weird lifestyle. It's like I'm watching like late night TV. Who watches late night TV? Like people who just don't do anything. And so I'm like waking up late, going to the gym, eating dinner with my parents, trying to look for jobs. And I forget what happened, but I connected with somebody who's like, you know what? There's jobs, temporary jobs through these temp agencies. So go there. And I'm like, you know what? That's probably a good idea. So I can think about what the hell I want to do with myself. I like everybody out there, I enjoyed entertainment. And I'm like, I want to write for TV because I watch these sitcoms. They're not funny. I can do better, I'm sure. And so I'm working on that on the side. And then I just take a temp job in Boston. And it was just basically a job at a low level. And the people were really goofy, which was good because it helped the comedy to think of what am I supposed to do myself. And so then I'm like, you know what? I'll just save enough. I moved back home, rented the condo out. my roommate, he got to get married, so the condo's like rented barely. That was a nightmare too. And so I'm like, I started planning and plotting what I was supposed to do. And my theory was, I'll give Los Angeles a shot because I'm already failing drastically in the Boston area. And my argument was, I didn't go to Harvard, I didn't go to MIT, I had no connections. So why even hire me? I'm useless. I have no skills. Just because I grew up in the area, that's not a reason. So I'm like, you know what? Go into LA and see what the hell happens. And I'll go right for the movies or TV. And so I jump in the car at 28 and I do that. And then you find out everybody in the world
Ha-
thanks
had
to
you
what's
been
that?
there? You just picked it. Had you ever been out west, or you just like decided you're gonna do that because that's where people that did TV stuff
Yeah, when I was in
were?
11th grade, I spent the summer in Vegas, Oakland, Huntington Beach with like relatives. So I got a taste of it, and I
Oh
really
wow.
liked Southern California. And because to me, it was like warm and it was, the future. At the time, California was the place to go to build yourself up. A lot of East Coast transplants, which is a good and a bad thing. But the fact is, I knew that to try to make it, some people went to New York, but I wanted to go to LA because one, I hated the weather. And my argument was simple. If I fail, I won't freeze. And that was, I mean, but here's what happens.
I
You have
love it.
like, parents that always like, they got a house, I mean, a small house and like that. And then, again, money was always tight, but if I failed, I could always just fly back and just crash out, one of my old bedroom or whatever, and then start over again. That's a good thing about safety nets. And so I always make sure that in case of emergency, I have safety nets here and there. Like right now, if everything went to hell, I could crash my buddy's house and drive crazy, but everything, everything's fine right now. But the point is, I go to LA to try to figure this out, taking part-time classes, writing and script writing, all that stuff. And uh, again, wasn't a joy. I was getting nowhere fast. I couldn't get an agent, couldn't get any help, couldn't get any connections. Through a couple of people I did here and there, but again, it's a full-time. You have to write full-time and consistently do it. So a lot of the people who are in that industry either got connected at college and writing that way. So a lot from the Harvard world, Ivies, or their family had money, and so the person just does it full time. So it's a tough way to break out and do it. But those aren't excuses. It's just that I just didn't make it. But so what? Who cares? But in tech, though, I got back in because I did a temp job again over in Los Angeles, which was a mess, which is no fun, so boring. And then I just like connect with a friend back east, and I go, "Hey man, do you know anybody in California?" And he goes, "Wow, it's the old sales manager over here just moved to a place called El Segundo." He goes, "Is that near Los Angeles?" I go, "It's two towns away. That's awesome." So I called him up. He goes, "What do you need?" I go, "Blah blah blah." He goes, "Okay, inside sales. They'll pay your bills." Good enough. So I get inside sales, keep trying to write, keep failing on the writing side. And then I start meeting these people making some serious cash. They're called outside sales reps for vendors. They sell different products. And so I start to pony up and buddy up with them because they want champions. They want people inside the organization that they cover the costs and push their products. And I'm like, I can do that. I can be a puppet. And so I did that. And from there, then you eventually get to those companies, you work outside and they just throw money at you. I mean, the job's monotonous. Mentally, you don't use your brain. I mean, I just only know how to talk technology, sales, uh, and that's it. But you get to travel the country. You get to eat at the greatest steakhouses. You get to go to sporting events till you're blue in the face. But again, you don't use your brain. It's monotonous. There's no fun. There's no joy, especially in an industry that you have no interest in. And that's basically what happened. I did it for 30 years. Um, and I was well known in Los Angeles. So to get a gig was no problem because everybody's like, well, I was, all right, Wysocki, he'll do it. And so that's what I did.
So you got good money.
Yeah.
You had a stable job. You were able to buy all the things. You're not necessarily feeling happy or content, but you keep doing it because it seemed to fulfill a lot of the things that people say make someone successful, like to have all these things and be able to buy them and go and do
Yeah.
different stuff. And yet you're still kind of like wanting to do writing, but it's not working out, but you're like, I guess I'll just keep doing this thing. And you keep falling into some level of success that's
Yeah.
sustainable. But yet, what does
Yeah,
it
and that's
feel
it.
like?
And that question is imperative. And I hope young people are listening, because the question is deep. The reason is because especially people from the low income. I was a first generation low income student, so my parents didn't go to college. I was, the first one to go to school, and the money was always tight. Okay, we're told, especially from an environment that doesn't have anybody in the professional classes, that money is the answer to every problem out there. Sure, make sure you have good health, but if you can secure anything to make money, life is awesome. And so everybody buys into this. I still talk to these young students who buy into it because, again, they're from families with low incomes. So they don't understand there's more to it than that. And that's when it all kicked in, because money wasn't really the issue at the time. It was some type of interest, enjoy, monotony. It's like, is this it? Is this what I'm going to be doing? There is absolutely no joy. And one of my good friends in the industry, this guy I worked with on and off, or competed against, for years. And we used to kind of we look the same. So people always got us confused, which is weird. Um, and so I talked to him one time. I'm not going to use his name, but I said, "Hey, I think I'd say about 95% of it's mostly men too. Guys in tech sales are miserable." He goes, "You're way off. It's 97%." And it just shows you everybody, there's no joy, because a lot of them, you meet a few of them that were former engineers or tech weenies that just happen to be good sales guys. And that's very rare to meet. It's most of these guys, they're just regular businessmen, family, married with 2 kids, they have a couple cars, life's good, they get a couple vacations a year, blah, blah, blah. But they're extremely unhappy and miserable. And so, but it was a good thing, because it taught me a lot. It taught me to find out, is everybody as miserable or as unhappy as I am in their career. And that's what from there got me to my next step, which was the idea of doing the research in figuring this out so I could publish this multi-award winning book to help change the next generation, to help them with decisions on career choice. So I'm making this cash. And so instead of, buying an extra car or going on an extra vacation or even putting down payment on a second house, blah, 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 I said, I want to invest it into building or figuring this problem out. And so because I was in sales, I knew I couldn't do it myself. So you sub things out that you don't like. Now, I didn't know how to do a database and build up a questionnaire on a website. This was at the infancy. So again, I talked to another buddy in the industry. Again, a top sales guy. He's just still a machine. Both of those guys I used to connect with, trusted advisors. They're still going at it like maniacs. And he goes, "Hey, I know a guy who builds websites." I'm like, "Perfect. That's my buddy." So I went through all these questions, which I think that people should have asked about careers. And I talked to a lot of people I knew in careers. I go, give me some questions. So I put them all together, and I started reaching out to people through that I was network to, or in industries that I want to get some data about an industry, and ask them to fill out questionnaires. And I got a bunch of them. And so the majority of people in the book that I wrote is 101 careers by careers by the people, 101 careers by the professionals, basically something like that. And each is asked 20 plus questions, the majority of 5 years in their field. They took off their last name because there's no blowback. Because I always tell the students, I go, if you ever see somebody get interviewed and they're still in that occupation, take it with a grain of salt. The local vice president of the bank will never say the job isn't a joy. He'll be like, "Oh, I wake up, because he's making 250. I wake up and I go into work and I hug my manager and we're best friends and we talk about everything. It's so great." And Susie, my associate, oh my God, funny. She makes the best donuts. Oh my God. It's just everything, blah, blah. And we dance on unicorns and life is great, blah, blah, blah. Nonsense. So my thing was to get the information of people from CEOs, actuaries, accountants all over the map, break them into Holland's occupational themes, 6 different chapters of our crazy buddy, John Holland from Wysocki. But at the answer, the conclusion, my stuff's clear and concise. I tell how I failed and what I should have done to prepare for the workforce. And it's powerful because I don't hold back punches. It's vicious. And I'm only attacking myself. So that's why people see it as funny because it's like, constant, like, I should have did it. Should have, would have, could have, right? And did the book come out any good? It won 5 awards as of today. And it has endorsements from educators of Harvard, Stanford, UMass, BU, Northeastern, all these top schools in nonprofits, military, all of that. So that's what's so it gets out there. And then I talk to students out there in the school system, high schools and colleges, and that is interesting as well. And I could tell you some more stories about what I see in America.
Yeah,
Yeah,
please do. I love this. So you're
yeah,
inspired by your success and your
yeah.
lack of fulfillment to go out and start getting some data. Maybe part of that sociology kind of
Oh,
influence too of let's just go see how it
without
really
question.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and go out and like get more data yourself because and I had this feeling a little bit too. I just didn't go out and get the data from a bunch of people at that time, but I was looking around. Well, I'm shaking a freaking they call this thing. It looked like a balloon if you had like pulled it down, but it was made out of glass and it's called a separatory funnel. And you make some sort of reaction and you put your stuff in there and you swirl it and the organic layer and the aqueous layer separate. And you're like, oh, woo. And as you're swirling this thing, I'm looking around and you gotta be a little bit delicate because you got chemicals in there. I'm looking at the other people and I'm like, is everybody thinking this is really freaking miserable? Like who in their right mind would love doing this crap with, toxic chemicals? I'm not liking it. And I'm looking around at the other people in the lab, and some people are like just sheer joy on their face. And I'm like, okay, well, problems must be me then. But I'll keep doing it because I already decided I need to finish this thing. So you're having these
Yeah.
kind of thoughts on your own, and you're like, you know what? Let me just go out and get real data that led to this awesome, awesome book. I thank you for that. And yeah, I'd love to know more about you talking to people in the schools, the one that matter. And I think even in our initial conversation, you mentioned something about like there's certain schools you target versus where other people might target. So let's talk about
Sure.
that and why and how that's making such
Yeah.
a
Okay.
difference
Yeah. And one thing I want to
to
bring
give
up
them
too is that
reality.
the people that are listening, you have to understand, Carolyn went into hard science, the real sciences, polymer science. I went into social sciences, which is a little bit easier to follow through. So that's a real hardcore science, which everybody's like pushing everybody into STEM. Oh, wait, you're a woman in STEM. Your example is you're a woman in STEM. And she didn't,
I know
and
that
you
was the
didn't
thing.
enjoy
It
it,
was a
right?
push.
It just showed. That's what I always make a big deal about. I was like, more women in STEM. I'm like, what if they don't like it? It's who cares? Everybody's like
Right.
trying to push somebody. Everybody else who has no clue is trying to push people into these little holes because it makes them feel better. But the person in the hole's like, I don't like this, So it's just like, so
Right.
you, your background is somebody who's perfect for like one of the targets and all like that because you tried the hard stuff and you went into something different. And people have to understand that is you really have to drill down to figure out what interest, what you like. Okay, so let me talk about the schools. And this is awesome. Okay, so the funny thing is a lot of people in the career readiness space, which I focus on, there's a lot of like authors and speakers, and most of them are really, when you connect with them, you respond to them, they're good people. They're trying to do good for society and work with them. But most of them only speak to other educators. So these people have masters, PhDs, all of that stuff in psychology, psychiatry, all these high-end sciences, education, all that. And they want to talk to educators about all these different subjects and blah, blah, blah. We have to increase the percentage of, this gender and this ethnic background in this industry because of this X, Y, and Z. I'm like, all right, great. That's good stuff. Not my value. Okay. Mine's the students. And so I started asking, I go, hey, how, do you guys speak to a lot of students? The response was no, 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 no. And I'm like, what? Nobody speaks to students except there's one guy in South Carolina, Brooks.
Right.
He's the bomb. And so I go, Brooks, I hear you speak to students. He goes, yeah. And he goes, why do you want to do that? And I go, because it's ultimate joy. He goes, I know, I do it. And he goes, were you a teacher or a comedian? And I go, what do you mean? He goes, Those are the only people that will do it. And I'm like, wow. And he goes, don't worry. There's two of us, probably three or four, if I'm missing a few. So that's a big issue right there in itself. Because when these career readiness people speak to educators, how much are the educators getting it and passing it through? Are they just sitting there checking the box going, I went to hear somebody speak, they actually using it, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, cut out the middleman, just get me in front of the students. And so that's what I did. When I put the book out, I have to build a resume. The student, people have to listening out there got to understand. It's like, I didn't accept any payments because the fact is I'm building a resume. So I can say I spoke at these different schools, high schools and colleges. And it was amazing. But the difference is, and I try to focus on, if the top 50 wants to hire me and have me speak, without question, it's a joy. These students are cutting edge. They're prepared. They're organized. They're going to run the country. No questions asked. All done. When I speak to school ranked 724, we've got problems. Okay? And I clearly can explain the issues and the problems with it. The other thing, too, what killed me was when I spoke to some of the high schools. And the high schools, not in some of the better areas, were some of the most interesting, and some of the students that I met were amazing. I spoke at this one school, Holbrook Middle High School. So it's all high school, but they call it middle high school. I don't know why, because the way it's built, it's like four different schools around. And they were bringing these kids in from the inner city or section in Massachusetts called Brockton. It's not the greatest area. It's very low income. It's known for they call it boxes because it's known for Hagler and Jake LaMotta or something like that. I think it was one of the fight. But anyways, time ago. But the point is when I spoke to the students, some of the students that it happened over here in Maui too, some of the students that are not doing well, are not challenged in school, had some of the most interesting, best questions because school's not interesting them. They're like me, they're barely getting by, but they want to do something else after school. And I remember this one young guy, I think he was 11th grader, and he came up with some amazing questions. And we just battling back and forth to all the other students. It's like, it's a dialogue between these two. And at the end, I spoke to him, stay on focus, blah, blah, blah. And the teachers, this happens often. They go, how did you pick him out and why did you pick him out? I go, he has some good questions. He's very interested. They go, and this happened a few times. This student's not one of our better students. And I go, yes, he's not challenged. I go, he can make it. There's no question. He just has to get out of his environment. And his issue was he looked very similar to his brother. And his brother's a gangster. And his brother, the cops are there all the time. There's always problems. The cops get him confused. So he has to deal with a lot of serious adult issues just because he looks like somebody who is a thug. And so that was intense. Over here, when I spoke in Maui at one of the high schools, these two, before I spoke, and I spoke like 6 different times, they showed a video about some internship in the summer working with the forestry. And I'm watching it, and then I'm watching it. By the time I'm seeing my 3rd time, I'm bored with it, right? It's like 2 minutes. I'm watching the students, and these 2 students are like in the back. These 2, you can tell they were Hawaiian blood kids. And so I'm ready to speak, and I go, hey, before I start off, I just want to acknowledge these 2 young men over here. I go, I watched 4 or 5 of these videos because I have to before they start speaking. And you 2 are the most excited out of any student in this whole school. And I go, just out of curiosity, you guys like to go to like the woods, camping, fishing, all that stuff? They go, oh yeah, that's our world. And I go, please, for the love of God, for my sanity, apply for this internship. I go, here's an example. I was at a career fair at the University of Hawaii, Maui College, just there, just sitting at the table because I do things for Maui. And I spoke to the other vendors, and one was a guy forestry. And I asked him, I go, hey man, how's it going? I go, you must be having tons of applications. He goes, nothing. I go, what do you mean nothing? I go, it's an outdoor gig. You work for the feds in Maui. If somebody's into like the forestry world, the greatest job ever. And he goes, yeah, to you. And I go, what? I go, what's the problem? Then he goes, so the sections of Maui, it's like, they all live in South Maui and they don't want to live up country, which is not a big, seriously, it's not big far. I go, what? They rent in up country. It's less expensive. And you know what I mean? It's It's these little things that you like, there's opportunity and possibility. And yet some people are confused. But to go back at it, like the top 50, when I speak at those schools, top 50 colleges, these students are on it. Hey, how many on LinkedIn? All of them raise their hands. They're doing internships. They're doing school clubs. They're trying to get leadership. They understand professional soft skills. Bring it back to school rank 150. No, clueless. Not many are on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Not many are doing anything to improve. They just buy into it. What I did, I'll give you an example. One school that I spoke at, one class, and there was two issues that were imperative. The first one, I get in there, I'm sitting up and talking to them. I was talking to the students in the front row. Hey man, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. What year your school? Senior. Awesome. What are you studying? Accounting. I go, wow. Because in Boston, you take the trains a lot to bounce around. I was on the trains this morning. I'm reading the newspaper, and they say we're very short on CPAs. I go, you're going to go in there, start off. Book has become a CPA, certified public accountant. People that don't know, it's like the Cadillac or accountants. You're golden. He goes, accounting sucks. I'm not going in there. I'm like, oh. And I know how much he pays because my friend's son went there, $160,000 for 4-year education. Say, what I majored in sucks, and I'm not doing it. And it's just like, really? You could have shadowed somebody in freshman year or in high school. You could have actually worked part-time. You could have done an internship. You could have talked to 5 to 10 people in that field, or some that have left. I always talk about these so many steps and angles you can do before you make your decision and be that young man. I'm sure he's going to do well. He seemed bright, but he's behind the 8 ball. And then at the end of the class, I'm speaking to the students. I go, hey, any questions? They're like, yeah, I got one for you. They educate us, tell us to network. What does that even mean? And then I have to bring myself back to remember, they're 18 to 22. Their world is school. They have no idea what the workforce is. Yeah. They have no idea what this wild term networking really means. And the teachers are just going through the phases. And maybe the teachers have been in education their whole life too. So they have no idea networking or going to trade shows or building up and so a lot of these students are totally screwed and nobody's doing a damn thing about it. And so we got this bridge here. And on one side is industry bitching and moaning about the students aren't prepared for the workforce. Education's like, they're paying the bills. What more do we have to, they keep applying to the schools. What more do we have to teach? Even though some schools are going there, but schools have been going under since dawn of time. There's no bridge. There are things out there that are bridging and all like that, like CTE and all like that, but it's minimal. And nobody's taking this serious. And for some reason, myself and a handful of others, we're told we're the ones that are supposed to go out and get the word out. And so we're doing it. And I'm doing it through book speaking and just, figuring out the steps. And it's overwhelming. You know what I mean? I wish it was like, what was given to me was like, hey, go hang out with French bulldogs all day and see if they can talk, but we all have a torch, was it torch to carry or cross to carry?
Yeah, cross to bear, torch to carry. Yeah, but I love that you're doing it. You're going out to get the information to the people who could be impacted at the most. I just hope that they listen. But what I love is that you can speak with people, not at them. See, that's the thing too. Education could be a business, and for a college and a community college, 40% only finish. Point is, the statistics are not good. I'll go back and look that up. But the statistics are not good for community colleges. The statistics aren't even good for regular colleges. And regular, as far as like people that go in and they start with whatever major, do they finish with that major? They don't. And so then you're spending whatever, $15,000 if it's a state school, up to $80,000 or $100,000 if it's not, to true trial and error. And there is a better way, like you're saying. Find out what you're interested in. Find out about some jobs, go shadow, have some conversations, try before you buy. But when a college finds a student who wants to explore something else, that means they take longer to graduate. And so they're down for that because they get more money in the long run.
Here's the thing about, you're right about a lot of statistics. So with retention rates, started bubbling up. It was because I spoke to a high-end educator at Boston University. Boston University retention rate is like 92%. And my joke in my next book is going to be like, it would be higher if so many students didn't go to the NHL because the college hockey team is amazing. So, I mean, they play 2 years. You're going to sign with the NHL, right? And speak, but other than that, though, the school is career focused, like a maniac, right? I've spoken and the community colleges is should be where I should be hanging out. Because the fact is, I have spoken at what I call them community colleges. And I ask the students how many LinkedIn. I'm lucky at 20, 25%, sometimes eyes glazed over. And then I go, my next joke is, how many on TikTok? And so it just shows you that there is this big divide. And the community college is right. The retention rates, I mean, they are awful. And a lot of the state schools aren't that great there because the students go in there overwhelmed because they have no vision and no focus of what they want to do. And this stat right here is the killer. Students, where do they get their career information from? The family. 52% of them get it from the family. If the family's all in healthcare, what the hell do they know about cybersecurity? Goose egg. And so that's it. So I push them. And the other thing too is 12% of students are in career exploration classes. 12%. I can go to the examples till I'm dead. There's one school I got connected to from a friend of a friend, and her friend works in there. I met years ago, blah, blah, blah. We're talking. And she goes, oh, reach out to this person, blah, blah, blah. I did. No response. You know how many career? And they're a average state school in New England. They have zero career exploration classes. And the only thing they had for the students was a career fair for 2 hours in a semester. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. But on the flip side, though, I do see a lot of good out there if I dig. There's a school called Middlesex Community College in Massachusetts. They have 8+ career exploration classes. You do find some information out there. You got to dig. But you're right, for the average student going into school, there's little to nothing. There's no help.
Yeah, it's crazy. Okay, well, I have enjoyed all of the story to get to know behind the story. I highly encourage people to read your book that's out, to watch your YouTube channel. You've got lots of stuff on there as well, to follow you, like, subscribe, all of the things. So where can people find you? And then I'll still have another
Sure, control the question so it's easy
to end it.
Like my book and my website, it's Careers by the People. The other thing too is my name's, and you can see in the corner, Mike Wysocki. I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm the only one in Maui, so that's pretty easy to find. On my YouTube channel, believe it or not, it's at Careers by the People. So go at Careers by People. At the presently, there's 130 plus videos about career readiness. My next book, the second book on the subject, that is with the publishers, hopefully coming out in 3 or 4 months. In that book, instead of I don't talk about myself. I connect with college students throughout the country and ask them 30 plus questions of how they're preparing for the workforce, and then also include 102 new careers by the people. And they're broken into the CTE new 14 categories, career and technical education categories. So that's what I'm doing. I'm speaking. I got a couple speaking gigs here and there, but if you're an educator out there, I'd say reach out. Let's connect up. Let's talk. Let's figure some angles out, because my whole thought process is one of these states is going to take me up on this, and I'll be, because I always get these messages, huge in Arkansas or wherever, but being in Hawaii, I'd like to see what I can do my best to help here. But the West Coast, more than happy to help out and jump on a metal bird and speak to a variety of schools, high schools, college, community colleges, whatever's needed, organizations. So I do my best just to try to get the word out and try to help people, because what I see is it's not a joy. And I, like you said earlier about researching, I wouldn't want anybody to do this because of my resiliency and because of my thick-headedness. I can do this and I can take it. But a lot of people, this is tough stuff. Tech sales might have been boringer, or duller, but you get paid well, and but this is exciting and thrilling, and it doesn't pay a dime.
But the impact. Okay, so, and then I'm big on authentic success. And for a while, you chased what the world said, right? You chased the money, you chased the things like that. But now how do you define authentic success for you in this
Well,
moment?
one of the things I want to score is be like being curriculum in a state. That would be really like cool success. Getting the next book out. I have a couple more. I just keep knocking off the books, getting speaking gigs, and just trying to help the school systems out with career readiness. I wish they'd cut out the bureaucracy and listen to people that have been in the workforce, as well as the people who have been in education. So you put the two together, and we can resolve this issue. It's not overtly complicated, but bureaucracy makes it so complicated and so difficult to get anything done. And everybody loves to say no. Oh, yeah, yeah, no. What about this? No, 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 no. These people want to say yes. And there are people on the cutting edge. And I get some of the nicest messages. But the fact is, we have to resolve this is a major issue in the States. I actually did an podcast with a guy from the UK, and it's the same thing. It's the same damn thing. And I'm like, really? Why can't the educators can't solve it? And some of these organizations that are involved in, helping education, they're not doing a damn thing either. I mean, here's a good example. One of my questions is, in the future occupation, have you shadowed? Have you ever shadowed anybody? There's no statistics out there. Nobody's asked this question since the dawn of time. Are you serious? What the hell are these institutions doing that are supposed to be helping education, improving education? What are they doing? Taking a bunch of cash and going to, 4 seasons and eating a lot of steaks? I have no clue, but there's issues out there need to be resolved. Whatever I can do to help out, then I'm happy. My dog, if I'm happy, my dog's happy, life's good, living over here. I don't have too many complaints, but I got to resolve this major issue. And, there's only so much time left before I'm dead. And so it's like, can I get in the right direction? I don't know. Or do I die? What happens? That's a good question. We'll find out.
I think the story goes, because it's not written yet, the story goes, people read your books. They're a resounding success. They impact millions upon millions of lives, and people actually start designing a life that they love, and their career allows them to have that life that they love, all because of your part of the work, and maybe a little bit of mine too. Let's make it that.
You got it, Carolyn. Much aloha. I appreciate everything. You do amazing work, and I thoroughly appreciate the chance to get on and talk with you, and hopefully have a lot of listeners out there who are interested in career readiness. So, again, thank you for all your time, your energy, your excitement, your knowledge, and what you're doing for society. It's great stuff.
I appreciate you as well, Mike. Thank you for all of this beautiful conversation. I can't wait to get it out there for people to be impacted. Here's what I want you to take with you. Career readiness becomes real when you get close to real work. Conversations create clarity. Exposure expands possibility. If you feel stuck or unsure, you get to ask better questions and you get to choose with intention. Mike's work is called Careers by the People, and you can find him at careersbythepeople.com. I'll link it in the show notes. If this show helped you, share it with someone standing at a turning point, a student, a parent, a friend, a colleague. One conversation can change a trajectory. Thanks for listening to Your Next Success with Dr. Carolyn Sengel. Remember, authentic success is yours to define and includes aligning your career to support the life you want.